Hello and welcome back to Together We Feel this week. I'm so happy to be here with our friends Erin Copeland, Kim Mosman, and Tara Temple, joining me from across the country and North America. Tara's one in our good friends to the north in Ontario. So yeah, and we've got Florida. We've got it covered. We've got Florida. We've got the Midwest. We've got a little Ontario, we've got California. So we are covering all the spaces and places today on this Monday. It's an open topic today. So we're going to talk about what is helping us and getting in the way of us living out feel, finding empowerment, embracing layers. And isn't that what life is? There's those things that are supporting us in it. There are those things we're struggling with. And how can we show up for ourselves unapologetically and for each other unapologetically to support each other in that. And that may mean that we just listen. We may talk about things today that we don't have solutions for, but we can listen and we can support. And hopefully through that, it can help you all listening out there too, in the things that are both, supporting you and hindering you. And we'd love to hear from you. Share in the comments with us as you listen throughout the week, whether you're here with us live now or later in the week, what you're going through, what's supporting you, what's helping you. We have a whole treasure trove of resources on our website, embracinglayers.com. So we might have some things that can help you. So we'd love to be a resource for you. But for today, let's get going here on this Together We Feel. For me, I had a very interesting weekend. I spoke at an event in Southern California that was originally supposed to be at the end of January, but ended up getting moved to this first week of May because of the fires in Southern California. The location that was hosting us was right in the middle of where so many of the fires were happening, and actually ended up hosting and being a point to take off from for first responders. And so they were shut down to all guests and all conferences for quite some time. So we were able to get it back and do it in May, but it was set up to be a refresh and renew, meant to be kind of a New Year's thing. It ended up being a May thing. And with that came a lot of challenges for the event organizer in figuring out first when we could get back to the hotel to do it, figuring out then to all the people who had RSVP'd if they could make it this weekend or not. And many could not, but all the speakers showed up, all the panelists showed up. And even though it wasn't the way it was originally envisioned, it was still a really great opportunity to network and connect and share my F.E.E.L framework with incredible women that I would have never met otherwise, and a chance to just really pour into some women. I got to meet with some women one-on-one. I got to speak for the first time to an audience of total strangers. Everywhere I've spoken before has always been some people I knew. And so it was always a pretty friendly audience. Like they, of course, were going to say great things back because they already knew me. They knew the background of my work. And so this was the first time that I was really getting in front of women I didn't know, women of all ages. And literally the youngest person there was 14 and the oldest person there was in her 70s and everywhere in between. So it really was a multi-generational group. And I ended up spending time with people in all age groups. So it was really kind of one of those things where I was like, it was great to see how this message is multi-generational. And it was also a great way to see how you can take something that on paper looks like it kind of flopped, but actually make the best of it. Like, of the people, I had the 100 people that RSVP'd, only 10 made it. The rest of it, of the 75 people there, 65 of us were presenters or panelists. But we just adjusted on the fly, and we did our presentations and we did our panels and we set up our exhibits, and we all used it as an opportunity to get to know each other, to pour into each other, to find ways to collaborate with each other, and still found a way to make it a win for us. And it was just a good lesson in life of the 10 years ago, I think I would have been more on the cup half empty of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I took this weekend and spent this money and this time to do this thing. And instead, I was able to like, you know what? I got in front of a group of strangers for the first time and saw that the message truly does resonate with women. And they don't have to know me or have my background for it to resonate. It truly is multi-generational because I spoke to women personally, spent one-on-one time with women from ages 22 to 75, and they all resonated and got something out of the message. I was able to, so I think it was just a really good reminder of we get to decide how we want to process and experience something, even when it doesn't go the way it was initially planned. We get to decide what we're going to make of that. And I personally am really proud of myself on the progress I've made in that arena from where I was 10 years ago to where I was now, and the difference that I see in myself and the way I was able to process the experience of this event. So yeah, little win there in experience, and just, it's fun to see the growth in yourself. It's also fun to see people experience your message in the way that you hope they will. So that's fine. All right, Erin, how about you?
Well, first, congratulations. It's so much fun. I love speaking to new groups of people, and I love seeing how they interpret my message, because you get out there and you think you have a path and you have an idea, and then somebody comes up with a question or an idea, and it might be something you didn't even think of before. And that excites me so much. And the work that I talk about with caregiving and empowering caregivers and educating people on the caregiving journey is just all of the questions and hearing other people's stories. So congratulations for being just in front of new people. I love that so much.
Yeah. And it really also informed me on how I want to set up my online coursework that I'm going to be creating and recording throughout the month. I got ideas from there that I probably wouldn't have come up with otherwise. So yeah, good stuff. All right. How are you doing?
How am I doing? Today has been one of those, and I'm just going with today because that's where I am. I can't even go back to this weekend. It's a day by day scenario we've got going here. And it's been a roller coaster of a day. I mean, I've been, in general, cocooning really hard, really deep in the dark crevices. However dark and deep a cocoon can go, that is where I have been. So this is the first I've really resurfaced in months. And so I'm excited to be here. But this morning, and I'll be interested to hear if anybody else on the panel today has been feeling this way, but over the past 2 days, my anxiety has just been just off the charts. And it hasn't been like that in a really long time. So just being aware of it, which is like in the work that I do, that's the first pillar, is our awareness. So I'm like, okay, at least I'm aware my anxiety is cuckoo. But now how am I going to get on the other side of it? Which didn't super help, because then I was getting anxious about not being able to fix the anxiety.
I can totally relate to that.
Like, okay, I know I'm anxious. Now fix it. Wait, I didn't fix it. Now I'm more anxious.
I'm not laughing. I'm laughing because I totally know that feeling.
Gotta laugh. We have to laugh. So actually it was starting back in January, but I've been healing from a back injury. And the worst part of the injury was that I ruptured my disc at the L5 S1 level. And so that damaged my S1 nerve root. So I had all kinds of pain and numbness and loss of sensation and muscle spasms all in my right leg and foot. And so I've been going through a whole healing thing with that. And so I went to the chiropractor today, and I love him dearly. I haven't seen a chiropractor in years, but for this process, I brought that modality into my healing, and I love him so much. And he did an adjustment, and I just started crying. And I knew what it was. I also work as a massage therapist. I'm very accustomed to people having emotional releases on my table. I understand the concept of holding space for people. I have caregiving experience, all of the things. I get all of that. I was happy he got it. Because at first he was like, okay, let's get up. He was going to help me up. And I said, no, I can't. And I just laid there and cried. And he sat there and he just held my hands. And he just waited and he just let me cry. And he said, no, I'm sorry. I had my eyes closed too. And I didn't see that you would start to cry, or I wouldn't have tried to get you up. I said, it's okay. And I finished. It didn't take long, which is what I love about feelings, because it seems so scary. When I first started leaning into this work of actually feeling feelings, I was like, if I feel these, they are going to take over. Yes. Like they're going to take over. And then as I started testing with it, I started to realize that once you can feel it and your body knows it has been heard, it goes away.
Yes.
Goes away. And so the crying, I didn't sit on that table. I mean, maybe a minute. I cried, maybe 2 minutes. It wasn't that long. Yeah. But I felt the release. And we finished our work and we had a little chat. And then at the end, he poked his head around the corner and said, I'm sorry I made you cry today. I said, no. You did not make me cry. I had an emotional release that my body needed to have as part of this healing. So thank you. Thank you. And he was like, okay, thank you. So all of that was really beautiful for me. And then I got back in the car and said, okay, like I'm in this space and I've had this release. Now what are we going to do? And I said, it is Cinco de Mayo and we're having a fiesta.
Good for you.
We're having a fiesta. And so on my way home, I went to the store and I got some stuff for, tacos and a margarita. I found some frozen churros. So after our chat, I'm going to make some churros, like little guacamole salsa, just a whole little thing. Just me and my husband at home, not going out, but just a little something. But just doing that was something chill and peaceful, but still fun, totally shifted my outlook. So that combo of allowing myself that release and then supporting it with something light and with ease just felt so good to me today. So the day, yes, it was it was up and down, but it's definitely ending on a high note. So
oh, thank you for that. There was so much good stuff in that. And it's so interesting you bring up the chiropractor. A chiropractor was one of the people that spoke at the event I was at on Saturday. And he talked about the fact that his story of how he got into it. And also, the fact that so much of what we're dealing with in our bodies, if you can get it released through addressing the nerves that are lighting things up, the kind of relief that's possible. And he talked about kind of how he introduces himself on the airplane. He goes, I never lead with chiropractor because people go with these preconceived notions and they've stopped listening before I started. So I introduce it as, I'm an energy enhancer releaser. I don't know. He's got some term and then as he's talking about it, they're like, oh, I get what you do. But it allows people to continue to listen. He comes up, he's a pretty charismatic guy, but I was talking to him afterwards and he's like, I've got a name of people in Fresno that you can use because I've been looking for that. So I'm so glad you brought it up because it reminded me to reach out to that. But yeah, I love that emotional release because I think so many women, we're afraid to address our emotions for exactly what you said, and we don't take into consideration the relief that will be felt if we just allow ourselves the space to feel it. And also, I think when you have frameworks like all of us do, you have if I acknowledge it, then I can figure out how to walk it out. And I can figure out how to deal with it and process it instead of, it doesn't have to engulf me. I have tools, I have resources. And yeah, just that view of what the body will release when these things are, and the emotional releases, and how you were able to say to your chiropractor, no, thank you. This was good. It helped me. You helped me get to a place that I needed to be. And I think
Because
you being able to
there
see it
was a
through that lens
version
too.
yeah, there was a version of me, like you were talking about the version of you 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I would have been mortified to cry in a practitioner's
Yes.
office, and I would have shoved that down hard and not let those tears come. I would have choked it off and not let it happen. And so today there's a version of me that was like, nope, this is coming up and we're going to let that come up. And no, I'm sorry you want to move me, but we're not moving right now because we need to finish this cycle.
Yeah.
So
And that is
that's the
showing.
part of me that I'm proud of, is that I let that happen.
Yes. You showed up for yourself unapologetically. You didn't apologize for crying. You just asked for that moment for yourself. Ah, so much good in that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I love that so much. All right, Kim, my dear, how are you doing?
I'm great. And I'm even better now that Erin shared that, because I was just thinking to myself how we as women work so hard to heal our physical bodies or um, fix the things, but we don't ever complete the healing, you know? It's so important to just embrace that feeling and let it be. And I think if we do that, like you said, I don't know. For me, I learned to process it. Like 10 years
Mhm.
ago, I would have fallen apart and it might have lasted all day. I wouldn't have rebounded quite as quickly. But as we practice allowing our feelings, we become stronger and stronger and stronger. And so, yeah, good for you. Good for you. Um, yeah. How am I? I'm really good. I took one of those moments for myself last week, and I went away to soul camp
Mm,
and spent 2 days in the presence of 25 other women, just talking through um, what makes us tired, what what pulls us down, and how to fill our cups again. And I've never al- I've never allowed myself to do that.
mm,
I've gone away for conferences to be a better coach or a better instructor or whatever it is, but I've never gone away with the intention just to fill my cup. And it was
mm.
lovely. But now I'm back home. And so trying to build a couple of like low retaining walls to keep my boundaries just kind of where I established them last week.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like going someplace and you go to a conference. You went to your
Mhm.
conference and you get so excited and you learn all these things, but if you don't come back and put them into practice, you're just lost again. So
Yeah.
I'm yeah, yeah. So
I love
I
that
am
that
very
retaining
good.
wall that you put up.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that
Yeah.
retaining wall
I
representing,
I
and I love Soul Camp. I love that name.
mm,
I mean, that because
mhm.
that really is the work. At the end of the day, you said it earlier, Kim, like we can do all these different physical things, but if we are not tending to our souls and
Mhm.
getting, really in touch with that others, it's not a complete. It's not complete.
Mhm.
There's things that are being missed. There's things that aren't being tended to. And there is nothing more powerful to me than being in a room with other women who are there to share, who are there to be open and authentic and supportive of each other. There's so much power in that. It gives me so much hope for what's possible when you can gather together like that and really, really connect with each other and support each other.
Yeah. It was amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, I love that.
Recommend
So,
it highly. So,
yeah,
yeah.
good stuff. All right. Tara, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I love hearing all of you women talk. It's so heartwarming to hear all of your stories. And um, you mentioned, Kim, that you went to Soul Camp and that really filled you up. And I really see that as sort of like, that inner workout we all have to do to fill ourselves up and feel contented and fulfilled within ourselves. So I'm glad you took that time for you. And I think it's something more of us women need to do on a regular basis is like go on retreats, maybe away from our families and friends, and go meet new people like you did, Melissa. Um, from every age group, because there's always universal themes where we can connect with one another. And Erin, just you sharing your vulnerability of letting out those tears and those emotions while dealing with your back issue, I can certainly relate to that. And I applaud you on that, because that you really need that to be able to heal. Your body needs to release those endorphins, or those feelings that you're feeling, in order to get well again. So I really almost teared up when you spoke about that, because when I got one of my MRI imaging tests done, I kind of did the same thing when I was inside the machine. You know,
Oh,
like
wow.
all these thoughts go through your mind, like, oh my gosh, what's the worst thing that they can find on the scan? And yeah, I didn't want it to be anything bad. So that brought up feelings for me that, you know, whatever it is that we are dealt with as women, we can always overcome it. And I'm glad we have this platform to be able to share with other women, even people that are younger than us. You know, we're equipping them with the tools to be able to get through their crises and you know, their different stages in life. And I noticed as we were talking, a lot of you talked about the progress you've seen in yourself. So if you look back now, like the old you 10 years ago would look back and say, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of everything I've, you know, risen above and got through, and look how much confidence I have now. So, you know, even though you're in the dark and you think, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm going to make it through this, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and we're going to have different versions of ourselves that we can be proud of.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's
I
what
love
came
that.
up for me. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for those affirming words too. I think that, you know, you and Erin, when you were on together last time, I was telling you guys before we got on and recorded, I'm so happy to see both of you, because you've had your each of your own journeys with pain and back issues over the last few months. And those are the things that life throws you that you don't see, you're not planning for. So, Erin, go first, and then Tara, talk to me about, is there anything that you learned about yourself through that process? So many times these things force us to have to take a step back in ways we're not expecting, and not necessarily welcoming, because it's like, that's not what I'm supposed to be doing right now. But so talk to me. But at some point you have to just kind of give into that. And there's a word I'm looking for, it's not coming to me right now, but really allow that time for yourself to heal and do whatever needs to be done. And pain is a motivator, because nobody likes to be in pain. And so you do get to a point where you're like, okay, fine, whatever I have to do, just make this pain go away. So yeah, talk to me, Erin, about this unexpected journey of that over the last couple of months.
I mean, I will say it ignited a whole new level of writing for me, because I haven't been on the patient side of the caregiving experience in maybe really ever. But I mean, I think it was day 2 or 3 of the pain, and I was like, okay, so now I understand why people drink. Now I understand how people get addicted to the opioids, and now I understand why people say yes to the surgery. Because if someone told me it was going to be like this for ever, like,
Yeah.
no. It was also, I mean, the mirror of it and the reflection was, okay, how am I taking my downtime and taking care of myself? Because I do view it as my body saying, okay, number one, we're going to slow you down. You needed to break. You needed to calm down. You needed to regroup, and you didn't do it on your own. So guess what? I'm going to do that for you. So that was also a little hard for me to swallow. The very deep, and I'm sharing this it's one of those nervous moments of sharing because I haven't figured it out yet. But I keep having recurring problems with my right foot. And it shows up, it has showed up over the years. It's always the right foot. Last year in the summer, I had PRP injections in my foot because of some arthritis. And I was like, so PRP is when they spin your platelets out and inject you with your own platelets to help the healing process and inflammation. So it's your own body that's going in there. And I was like allergic to my own body. Like my foot exploded. It was huge. It was so painful. It was so terrible. I was out of work for a month. Like that also shut me down. But also the right foot. And so I'm like, oh, what is it with the feet and the right side? And in my most favorite Louise Hay book, the You Can Heal Your Life book, the feet, it's fear of moving forward. And the spine is not feeling supported. And there is work that is in my heart that I have not, and Melissa knows because I have talked to her about my work, and I know she's sitting there thinking, I know exactly what you're talking about, Erin, because you've been talking about it, and it is not out there yet. It's not out there yet. And so I'm working through what that means to me and how I need to show up for some things and getting a little courage to take those steps forward. So
yeah. This is just another example of the mental, emotional, physical, spiritual connection in the body. It is just another, it's just another support of how our body manifests messages, and when we're not, and nudges us in ways that we're not, necessarily expecting or wanting, to try to get us to move. Again, like I say all the time to people, there are no good or bad emotions. There are no positive or negative emotions. There are hard emotions and there's more pleasurable emotions, but they're all clues, and these feelings and these things that happen in our bodies. And it's really what pointed me in a more holistic direction of like, no, I don't want just a pill. I want to know why. I want the research behind all these connections so I can actually find a solution for the actual core thing. And so, yet, like, now that you know this, it's like, yeah, I will tell you, this online course I'm working on this month has been swimming around in my head for a while now. And it took me being part of a seminar at the end of the month where the woman was like, I was like, how about if my freebie is the first chapter in our book? And she's like, how about if you have that online course ready? And we use that as, the first module of that you can present. The second module of that will be a freebie. And then you can offer the whole course at a discounted amount before you launch it live on January 1st or July 1st. January 1st, I wish, July 1st. And I'm like, geez, Lulu, are you my brain or my conscience here knocking on me? So yeah, there's all kinds of ways. That was a lot less painful than what you're dealing with your foot. Although ask me in the next couple of weeks as I'm putting this together, because I reached out to you. I'm like, will you please be my beta group? I have to do this now. And I'm one part thrilled and excited about the possibilities and two parts terrified. So, I feel you on that so much. Isn't it interesting? It's so interesting what we learn. And you looked around the panel, and when you said that, all of us were like, oh, we all kind of had our own moments there. So, thank you for that. All right, Tara. And you alluded to this earlier, was like, I think I did this to myself. Is not that the story so many times? So talk to us about that.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I really had to look deep within and figure out, I don't think it's anything I did per se physically to really injure myself, but I think it was something deeply emotional that I was holding on to for the longest time. And it was something I focused on subconsciously, that I journaled about it, I prayed on it, I asked myself questions every day. What is it that I'm still holding on to? And I figured out what it was. and when I got to, well, for a very long time, I was having very unbearable pain. And then I was on some painkillers. I would reflect on this and pray on it. And I said to myself, there's no way I can hold on to this emotional weight anymore, because the pain is never going to go away if I continue to hold on. So I needed to surrender. And I said, okay, I'm done. I'm letting this go. This is not in my control anymore. Um, and I'm going to surrender and allow and just speak to my body to get well. And I'm a very big fan of Dr. Wayne W. Dyer's books and message. In his teachings. And from one of his teachings, I learned that if you speak to the body out loud, if for any ailments or disease or whatever you're dealing with physically, your body will hear you, mind, body, and spirit, and you will start to see results and improvement. So I tried that for a couple weeks. I spoke out loud. I told my body, I love you. It's time for you to heal and get well. You don't deserve this pain anymore. It's too much for you to bear. And just let it go. Every day I'd speak to myself, like as you're doing something with self-care, like moisturizing my leg or something, or just being in the shower, I'd speak to myself out loud. And it really does work. It's like, it's incredible. Like, I've gone to so many holistic practitioners, but when you can speak to your body in that way and love yourself and say out loud, you can get well. And speak positive affirmations like, heal and clear, and I love you, and you've been through a lot. Now's your time to shine. And it's, I kept telling myself, you're too young to be in this pain, right? Even though I'm not young anymore, I'm pretty much
You're younger than all of us, so you're still young.
That's okay. We're never too. The 50 is the new 40 now, so
Exactly.
yeah, all you ladies are still fabulous. So yeah, so they say age is just a number, right? So but yeah, if you can really tune into your mind, body, and emotions, and whatever you're going through, you can always talk yourself through it, and your body will hear it. It really does work. I don't know how I came out on the other side. I was
Yeah.
yeah, they say like you can only do so much of, relying on certain practitioners to help you, but the real work comes within yourself. So yeah, that's something I want to get out there to help other people
Yes.
realize too, that you're
Yeah,
stronger and you can empower yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That going back to that, we have the answers within us. It's just tapping in, but also that word surrender. That was the word I was looking for. So thank you for coming up with it. So
Yes.
when I was fumbling around earlier, surrender is the word I was looking for. It's that surrender and release. We want when things are hard, we tend to want to go into control mode and try to control all these things that we think that we have. We've decided or falsely told ourselves a story about this control that just does not exist. And so surrendering and releasing and letting our bodies do what they were made to do. We were created, God created these amazing bodies for us that can do so much more than we allow, but we have to participate in that. I mean, I think so many times it's remembering that we have to participate in that but that we can. So thank you for that. I love that speaking and speaking out loud's really powerful too. I love that. I mean, I think that's such a great takeaway. Just that reminder, don't underestimate the power that you hold, and don't and surrender is not weakness. I think too, that's, there's this idea that surrender out there in the world, in culture, surrender is strength. Surrender is realizing you don't have all the answers, but without surrender, but when you surrender, the answers can come and you can find them and what's possible. So I really like that. I think it's so important to reframe what surrender really means. All right, Kim, before I ask you the question I have for you, do you have any questions for these two ladies before we get to that?
Not questions, but both of you mentioned writing and journaling, and we all know how important that is to me. But I was thinking just now as you were talking, Melissa, when you said remember, we are all still young. And the thing is if we don't take the time to remember and to record the processes, they can repeat themselves. And so I think it's so great that we all are recorders of our story. Because and just last week after all of my travel, I had a hitch, and I have trouble with my piriformis flaring, and it's the same similar pain, and I catch myself, and it's always when I haven't slept enough and I haven't honored stretching and doing the things that I know are good for my body because I allow myself to be busy, or not just busy, but too busy, unaware of my own needs. And so, yeah, I just think it's so great that you're both healing, but also that you're staying present in your healing. You're not just buying into whatever a doctor or a practitioner tells you. You're investigating, and I think that that's so important.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that point. That's such a good point. Thank you for that. For you, you transitioned. You've went from your winter time in Florida. Now you're back home in Iowa in the Midwest. Talk to me about what the transitioning is like for, when you do that transition, because there's got to be pluses and minuses and all and adjustments and all those things.
Well, first off, it's spring in a different place of the country at every different moment I'm in it. And I have terrible allergies. So I went through spring in Florida, and then I traveled through spring on my way home, and I'm living in spring right now, and it's awful. So I wish I could do something about that. But my mom always talks to me when I go to Florida, and she's like, "Well, how's your vacation going?" And I try to explain to her that when you go any one place for 3 months at a time, unless it's like a worldwide cruise, you're really not on vacation. You're just packing up life and taking it somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But every time I come back home and I land here, I realize that it really is kind of like vacation, because I'm staying in a rented space that's 100% done. There's not a honey-do list, and there's not all of the things that get in the way of just our best life. And it's not that I don't like doing yard work, or I don't like digging up the old flowers and putting in new mulch, or whatever the case may be, but I'm so much, I don't know. It's not that I'm tired, but I'm very distracted when I'm at home in Iowa. My list grows and grows and grows. And so part of coming back from Soul Camp, and part of the work that I'm trying to do for myself, is to create those boundaries so that I can still enjoy some of the freedoms that I have when I'm away in Florida.
Yeah.
I think we work all the time. Even when we're having fun, or we're spending time with our spouses or our kids or our grandkids, there's always work still ticking in there,
Yeah.
And if anyone has any great advice, I'm all in. I need to figure out a process for isolating those moments of vacation.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think those transitions, and you had to do 3 springs. I mean, it's like, oh my God.
It was awful.
I'm like, oh my word. I mean, especially when you have allergies. My oldest is an allergy person, and oh my word. I mean, what a blade of grass can do to that poor, well, she's not a kid anymore, she's 30, but do to that poor woman is just wild, literally. And so yeah, I feel you on that. And when she lived in Southern California for a while, and she's like, it's like this all the time. She's like, I need to get back to seasons so that my allergies go back to be seasonal rather than
Right.
like 9 months out of the year. But yeah, I think that those transitions can be really hard because you have one way of existing in one space. So how do you bring some of that back with you into that other space, even though that other space is really different, and find a flow within that feels restful, that feels present, that doesn't always feel like things are twirling all the time. I think I think that's a challenging transition. And I personally don't have any great answers for you other than you do what you do. Like, you have really great practices in terms of writing and tracking. So, maybe trying to get to that core of what's behind this. Why do I feel like I have to be in work mode here? What is the core to, where does the story start for this? And what do I need to dig into to determine what's triggering this? There's a story to this, something at some point set in my mind that in this space, I need to be this way. Getting like really curious about that. Because
I love that.
I think, and even with an Aaron, when you were talking about the anxiety piece earlier, I so wholeheartedly relate to that. I am the world champion of being anxious about being anxious. Like, I have got that down to an art form that I really don't want to wear a badge of honor about anymore. I used to. But that's what really drove, and this is from my therapist, I can't take credit for this, and Ted Lasso, he talks about it a lot too. Curiosity rather than judgment, like getting like really like, where is this rooted in? How did because I will go for months and like not have the tightness in my chest, not be carrying, and all of a sudden I'll have one day where it's just there. I'm like, why are you back? I did not invite you. I don't want you here. So where is this coming from? And I thought I had this thing figured out, but there's something obviously going on today, or this weekend or in this month. I had a day like that last week. I'm like, where is this coming from? I have been so settled for the last couple of months. Why is this creeping up again? And I had to like look around at the day and get really curious about what was coming up for me. And then I was able to dial down to it. But rather than, I used to just go into like, oh my gosh, I'm anxious again. What can I do to get rid of it? Breathe. Journal. And I was just being, and my therapist was like, you're taking these resources you have and you're treating them as a to-do list rather than being really like, I've checked all the boxes, I'm still anxious, rather than really settling. Okay, me being anxious about, I'm breathing, I'm still feeling this way. That's not going to get you anywhere. So if that's how you're approaching that breathing, then that's not going to work today. So what's a different thing you can do? And it was Suzanne Kohlberg. She's a friend of mine that I've been on her podcast. She's been on mine. She's got the Nope Show podcast. It's fantastic. She's hilarious. And she deals with boundaries and not people pleasing in the most funny, like has this great dry, she's Australian, so she's got the great accent going on, great wit, but she's also really vulnerable. I mean, she has this really like cool package of a personality where she's able to present this. And she was having a day like this. It was in her newsletter this morning. She was having a day like this last week, and none of the things were working. And so she was like, she had this time to rest. The kids and the husband were all out of the house, yet she was just anxious. And so she tried all the things, nothing was working. And she finally was like, forget it. I'm just going to go for a walk. And so she did. She went for a walk. That was not on the list for the day. It wasn't in the plan. No music, no podcast, no dog, no, just her and the outdoors, and she settled. And so sometimes it's going outside of our box of resources that, you know, because I would be like, I've done box breathing 3 times and I'm still anxious. It's like, all right, that is clearly not working. And so just figuring out like, okay, what's that thing maybe outside the box you don't normally use but can work. So yeah, hopefully
And
that feels
Melissa,
good. Yeah, go ahead, Tara.
I'm glad that you mentioned that because to help Kim out, you mentioned that, do something that's outside of the box. And what I've done research on recently is change up your routine, even though it may be hard to change it up because we're all do have our work schedules and daily lives. One small change you can do is just, if you don't do something small that changes up your routine in the morning. Spend 5 minutes for yourself outside in fresh air, or go out to a cafe that you've never been to. What it does is when you change up your routine, that's different from all your other pathways, it changes something in the neuroplasticity of your brain, and it helps you build up more resilience and capability to deal with stress, and brings down your anxiety levels. So they say to try out different patterns and different routines throughout the day. Maybe you reverse the times of day you do certain activities, and try something new. So that's one thing I can recommend. I've been trying that for a while, and the first time I actually tried that was when I was having some pain. I was going out in the morning and walking around in the backyard for 10 minutes with a heating pad on, while doing my prayers and spiritual practice. And that made a huge difference on my mood and got me out of that spiral of my anxiety and fears that were running through my head. So just something to consider that might help. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
Great.
idea because I'm very rigid in my routine.
Yes.
It's a healthy routine, but I am very
Mhm.
rigid in it. And so, yeah, that might be just the
Yeah,
thing that I need. So,
I can relate. If you need more
yes.
resource on it, I wrote a small newsletter so I could forward it to
Oh,
Melissa
nice.
to share with you if you like. Yeah,
I love that.
Oh
great.
man, all the resources. And Erin, did that light up anything for you on because I know you and I talked about anxiety, our good friend anxiety, more than one time.
You did. No, and I appreciate what Tara said about just changing up the routine a little bit. And I haven't done the research on it, but I have noticed in my healing too, when I started walking again, on some days I would walk the opposite direction. So I'll leave my house and I always go right. So my schedule was the same, but I went left. And I was like, I saw all these things I never see. Because I was approaching them from a different direction, and I saw parts of the landscaping of homes I didn't really notice, or seeing other houses just from a different perspective, even that in my own neighborhood, just because I walked the opposite way around the block. And so I felt my brain go like, oh, wait, what's this? My brain got curious and was paying attention to the surroundings, because even though it was the same, it appeared different. So same but different.
Yes.
Yeah, a little different viewpoint, just a little different viewpoint. Yeah. Oh my, I think it's so interesting. So interesting how our brain's processing, and especially when we do the same thing over and over again, sometimes those things become subconscious and we're not getting the presence out of them that we once did. And so like I try to change up like my walking routines just for that, is that so I'm not just buzzing through it mindlessly, like can stay present and intentional to yeah, I think there's so many, our minds are so interesting. And it's like, it is that balancing act, because I get it. I get what you're saying, Kim. I have this kind of like, I know this works, I'm going to do this. And then if I travel or if I do something and I get yanked out of it a little bit, sometimes that's actually the thing that I actually needed that I didn't know I needed. I was like, oh yeah, okay. All right. Does anyone have any questions for anybody else today? No? Okay, let's one last thing that we want to leave with our listeners this week. So, Tara, let's start with you. What's one final thought you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Yes. One final thought is we didn't speak about it much, but I know it's something that all of us have probably dealt with, and a lot of millennials and younger generations are dealing with nowadays is, the culture of comparison, especially with the rise of social media. We kind of get caught in a spiral based on who we're following. And even not even just based on who we're following on social media, but happens within family systems, among our peers, among our colleagues. We tend to compare ourselves to others. Now, some people may have this on a more severe scale, or have encountered it at one point or another. But I encourage you to realize that you're all unique individuals, and we all have something to offer the world with our talents and our strengths. And we're destined for greatness. And when we tend to compare, we're bringing our vibration down to, despairing and not believing in ourselves. So I just want to send that message out there, that remember that nobody is meant to live the exact same lives as others. And then when we compare ourselves to others, it will bring us down. So there are plus sides to social media, but if this is something that you're suffering with, where you're comparing yourself to the way other people are living, follow social media accounts that, where you can learn something from someone, and they're bringing up your energy and vibration level, and start to unfollow those accounts where you feel like, you're comparing yourself to the type of person they are. So yeah, I just want people to be able to realize 3 to 5 things about themselves every day that they can write down, and say to yourself before bedtime, to help your subconscious mind realize what an amazing person you are. And that really can help with your self-confidence and self-esteem, and gives fuel to your mind and soul. That it needs to live our harmonious life. So that's what I'm all about, is helping people find that inner peace and realize that, you were made for greatness, and you're meant to live your path and your journey. And yeah, it's just, don't get sucked into that world of comparison, because that's where a lot of problems can stem from. And you're meant for more than that.
Yes. Oh, that was so good. Thank you. I love that. Unfollow those ones that aren't filling you up. Pay attention to your body and how your body feels and is responding as you're following some of these different people that you follow, and pay attention to that. And if you're having your body's responding in a way that doesn't feel healthy or good, that might be a signal that it's time to not have that person's voice in your sphere anymore. Really good advice there. Thank you for that. Kim, how about you?
I'm going to share a real quick story that kind of goes along with what Tara was saying. So I was flying home from Charleston this last week and had almost made it home. There was about 30 minutes left before I touched down in my home state. And my book will be a year old this month. My very first book that I wrote. And so I was doing some planning for a celebration, and the book was in my lap, upside down. And all of a sudden, there's a little tap on my shoulder. And the flight attendant said, "Oh my gosh, are you reading that book? I love that book." And I looked up at her and I said, "This book?" And I turned it and she's like, "Yes, you can't miss that cover. It's so beautiful. I read it last spring and I just love that book." And everything in me wanted to start to cry, right? Because it's my book. And I said to her, "Oh my gosh, this is my book." And she said, "Oh my gosh, it is. Turn the cover over." And she looks and she's like, "Oh my gosh." And I said, "Oh my goodness, you just made my day." And she said, "No, no, 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 no. You life. And so huge thing for me, right? But along with what Tara just said, like we never know who we're impacting. So the things that we post on social media or the writing that we do or the people that we help, we have no idea.
Yeah.
But also, if someone impacts your life, we have to shout those things out because I'm still riding on a high that happened 6 days ago. And it's changed everything I think about my poor little book that I only have 40 reviews on and all the things, right? She validated my good work with that one little sentence. And so as women, we have to do that for other women. And so that's my challenge for this week, right? Just like one woman, call her out, tell her something she's done that's made a difference in your life. Parting
I love
words. There
that.
you go.
I love that story
Yeah.
so much. Oh my gosh, I love that story so
good.
much. That just gave me chills. I love that. There's nothing like all of us here do what we do in the hopes of touching somebody in just that way. But we spend a lot of time wondering if it's actually happening. And so to have somebody and our friends and those that around us were like, "Oh, are you kidding? How can you doubt that?" Well, it's when you hear it from the mouth of the person and you see their face and get to experience that is everything. I love it. That is everything. Oh my gosh. So good. All right, Erin, how about you, my friend?
Oh, I'm still with Kim's story.
No.
So good. It's so good because I understand how important that feeling is. So thank you for sharing that story. Let's see, my takeaway for the audience and the viewers is to get curious and play with letting your feelings complete their cycle. And because I had the crying moment, I'm gonna get really specific and about the crying, because anger can be an interesting one to maneuver in which way we release anger. But the crying, when you feel that coming up, just getting curious about it and maybe having a little bravery just to let the tears fall, no matter where you are or who you're in front of, and without explanation and without apology.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. That's a lot of big things. So play with it. Play with it. That's my invitation. Just to play with it.
That's good. That's really good. Because I think and you mentioned it earlier, all of us have had those times where we felt the tears coming, but we looked at who was around us, or this isn't the time, this isn't the place, or we've put our heads down or removed ourselves from a room. And sometimes that might be necessary, but for the most part, but make sure whatever it is, if it's telling you it needs to come out, it needs to come out. And you don't have to apologize or over explain. We are champions of that. My daughters to this day were like, "Mom, stop. We know you don't have to justify. You don't have to explain. We got it." And I've gotten a lot better. And I can at least catch myself now when I'm doing it. Like, "Oop, those are too many words. I don't need to give that many words for that." But thank you for that. That's so good. Okay. For me, I have a couple of things. One is, in the US, it's Mother's Day this weekend. This is, for all of us here, we are mothers in various ways, whether it's children, stepchildren, whatnot. Mother's Day, so there's a lot of blessings within that. Some of us have mothers that we have relationships with. Some of us don't have relationships we don't have, but we have surrogates that have stepped in. All this to say, Mother's Day is a complex day. And so being mindful of that when you're with and around people this week, that there's a lot of complexities that come with Mother's Day. My husband and I did a whole episode on it together in season 2 that I'll be sharing on our socials this week, because it's a good revisit. But be mindful of this. I'm going to be sharing information from some of our guests in the past that have dealt with infertility and decided not to adopt. And and what it's like. Our friend Lana Manikowski does an Others Day brunch every Saturday, the day before Mother's Day in Chicago each year, for those women who, for various reasons, have not been able to experience motherhood or are no longer able to experience motherhood. She has women flying in from all over the country into Chicago. She started this in 2022 with 15 people in Chicagoland, and she scheduled it 10 days before. And 3 years later, she's got women literally flying in from all over the country to be in this room together. So all that to say, enjoy it and be mindful. And if it's hard for you, that's okay. And if you need resources, reach out to me, embracinglayers@gmail.com. And I've got resources available for many of our wonderful women that we can send to you to support you for. But don't apologize for how you need to show up in that this week. Make space and make room for all the feelings and all the emotions without apologizing. Unapologetically allow yourself, and maybe even think ahead if there's some additional self-care or ways that you need to take care of yourself this weekend, if this is a tough day for you or a triggering day for you. So that's number one. Number two is going back to what Kim said. There's so much power in that. I got a surprise reach out last week from two women, Dr. Janelle, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank, Wells. Thank you. Dr. Janelle Wells and Dr. Doreen McCauley. And they were on a panel with me a few weeks ago here talking about their new work, their new book about the invisible work that so many women do. That goes unrecognized, unnoticed, and the impact that has on our health and how we can change the narrative around that and have conversations around it. And they do it, and they're researchers, and they do a ton of work. They college professors, all those kinds of things. When I originally met them a few months ago, we talked a lot about that. And I mentioned, gosh, I did an episode on, I don't know who coined the term, but I call it weaponized gratitude in season 2. And a lot of what is happening here in your work and research, this comes up and like, oh my gosh, that's such a good point. And we talked about it, and they're like, that's a great idea. We'll have to talk about that at some time. Well, I was like, and that was kind of the end of that. So go back to last week. They both have a feature in Psychology Today every week that's prominently read and reviewed. And they wrote an article on weaponized gratitude last week, and they cited me and the work at our network in the article, tagged me in it, shared across. And I was just like, it was just such a, not that I need legitimization of my work. I know my work's legitimate, but to have it spoken of in this way on this kind of a platform from these people was like, I asked my husband, like, I am thrilled out of my mind about this. Am I overreacting? He goes, no, that you're not overreacting. That's very legitimate to have it spoken of and to have you mentioned and your website linked to this conversation is really powerful and another manifestation that you're on the right track. So going back to what Kim said, if there's something or somebody that has impacted you, let them know. Let them know. You just never know where they are in their journey. They might look like on the surface that they are confident and thrilled and no doubts and no issues, but you never know where they are, because this work has, it takes time. It has an emotional toll at times. It takes income and resources and a lot of energy. And it's something I'm very passionate about, and all of us here are very passionate about. But also, there's days that you wonder. And so so that was weird. We had a little like blip there. But that on that note, we're going to wrap up today. So thank you all for being with me. Erin, Tara, and Kim. Check out our show notes. All their links are going to be there for you to have access to their information. They are all also guests with me in a variety of ways. So if you go to embracinglayers.com and go to the resources page, you're going to find them there as well. But thank you, ladies, for joining me and for sharing what is supporting you and hindering you as we live out Feel on Together We Feel this week. I appreciate you all so much. All right. Take good care, and we'll be back with you next week. Next week, we'll be back on the panel, and we are going to be talking about showing up unapologetically for yourself and other women. And I can't wait to bring this to you. It's going to be a power-packed panel. Thanks for joining us this week. Share this. Let us know what you think. Let your other lady friends know we're here. We want to support as many people as possible. Take care. Have a good night.